hi, Pookie Poo. You would think the way that I just said that he was a small child. He is taller than me. So, okay. Anyways, so, yeah. At any rate, so Saya posted a video on her Instagram this week. You can go to A Seat at the Table pod. I've reposted the video. And I would love for you to just view the video just for the purposes of this kind of pull up to the table conversation that we're having, right? So Saya, who is a lesbian, which has no bearing on anything other than the fact that I'm trying to paint the picture for you. So she is very masculine in presentation, meaning that, she wears her hair in cornrows, or she might wear it out. She's actually an attractive, very attractive lady. For those of you who listen to the read, I would feel like this is probably someone that Crystal would like. Shout out to them. But yeah, so in the video, you see that Saya's eye is black and blue. And I don't want to quote her verbatim, but she basically says that she was walking through by herself in Hollywood, and she got jumped by a group of men. She does not specify, but I would assume that these are cisgendered heterosexual males, right? And they jumped her for what she assumes is always, as she says, and I'm paraphrasing here, being tried because she is a woman who presents herself in a masculine way, that she is oftentimes targeted by cisgendered hetero men, whether it be in a verbal or a physical way. And she wanted to come and kind of tell her story because she doesn't want it to be this kind of hidden secrecy, and she wanted to let you know that she was good and that she is no worse for the wear and tear, but also to confront you with what that kind of abuse looks like and what that kind of violence, because I know that we think we live in this kind of postmodern, mindful age. And, for those of you who are new to the class, we've discussed mindfulness and kind of there being a paradigm shift in consciousness where we are getting to the point as a people that we want to have this evolution, right? This is an evolutionary thing where we are going from seeing people who are LGBTQI or A, having that be at one point in time a diagnosis of some sort of hysteria, to it being, what the fuck, whose business of it is yours, and let everybody live. And I know that we think that because we don't hear stories like Matthew Shepard anymore, that we kind of forget, in the craziness that happens in this experience that we're having nowadays. We kind of forget that Orlando, that mass shooting in Orlando, that just happened, y'all. Like, that's not something that happened. Like, I know that we don't want to think of it in that way of like, oh, well, that's like, that's an old phenomenon though. But the LGBTQIA, they not getting beat up anymore. They not getting targeted anyway. So, and I know that is also a self-defense mechanism, because you have to believe that those things aren't a stronghold anymore, so you can survive and leave your house every day if you are part of that community. You know what I mean? Like, you have to believe that those things happen less and less frequently, because if you walk outside and you're kind of, the first and foremost thing on your mind is that LGBTQIA people are being more targeted than ever before, you're likely to not leave your fucking house. And so I wanted to bring this to light because I knew that it wasn't a story that was going to be highlighted. And I want us in our kind of mindfulness as we take that kind of journey together to just, let's not forget that our brothers and sisters are still being targeted out there. in the U.S., acts of violence are actually legally classified as hate crimes, right? In certain situations, which, let's be clear about this. The harsher sentences are supposed to be, and I say that with air quotes, harsher sentences are supposed to be dealt for acts of violence that are committed and classified as hate crimes. Remember that young lady from the school in Connecticut who, because I don't want to forget her. And I know we're not talking about that because we have short attention spans, but we got to make sure that we're constantly kind of keeping these situations out there and making it very difficult for people like that to exist, but at any rate, so though the U.S. does not have a federal legislation marking sexual orientation as a criteria for hate crimes, several states, including D.C., enforce actually higher penalties for crimes where real or perceived sexual orientation may have been a motivator. In those cases, they're called gender nonconformist attacks. Gender nonconformist, and that's what is classically referred to as what the kind of hate crime that was done to Sister Saya. It's called a gender nonconforming attack, which the perception of this person who is not apparent from the appearances, what you would perceive their gender to look like would cause you. And you, whatever perceptions you have that goes along with that would cause you to divvy physical and or verbal communicative violence against these people. So only in the U.S. has criminal laws. So the U.S. is the only country that actually has criminal laws that specifically mention gender identity. So we don't have one specifically for sexual orientation, but we do have laws that act in the favor of gender identity. And even then, only 11 states and D.C. actually enforce this as actual state law, which is crazy. Again, this goes back to local government, state government. Who are your local officials? Who are your state officials? What do they believe in? Because to know that we live in the United States of America, 50 plus, states, right? If you know your shit, yes, there are 50 plus states of that make up the U.S., right? And only 11 out of those states actually enforce criminal laws that mention gender identity. So I know that it's kind of a thing of like, well, what can we do on our level? Like, I mean, I think it's wrong, but what can I do? Right? There's an organization called Task Force, TASKFORCE.org. And it is basically an organization that calls for people who are perceived to be transgender, or primarily so because of visual indicators, or what they call non-visual conformists. They're there to not only protect the rights of those LGBTQIA brothers and sisters, but also to give them support and lend them any financial aid or what have you, lead them to different organizations that may help them on a local level. Great organization. So if you have a moment, you can follow them on Instagram. 20 to 25% of lesbian and gay people will experience a hate crime in their lifetime. So that means literally almost 1 in 4 lesbian and gay people will experience a hate crime in their lifetime, which is really crazy. Homicides against LGBTQIA persons has surged since 2007. Transgender women, LGBTQIA, HIV affected, and trans people of color, Now, I know that that was a lot for you to digest, but these people actually experienced greater risk of homicide than their white LGBTQIA counterparts. So if you're a person of color from this community who also has the misfortune of being HIV infected, I mean, these are the stats. And we have to support. We have to support. We can't turn a blind eye and think that that stuff only happens to one set of persons in our society. I believe that that kind of hate, hate is kind of almost this blob, right? People travel in packs because of hate. You know what I mean? I've always said that I don't believe what binds people is anything mutuality that you have in common in terms of love or whatever. People are more commonly bonded over hate than anything else, which is like something super odd, but true. I mean, look at the way that we feel about the president. We've gotten to the point that fighting him, being angry with him has surpassed all the things that we need to do. Full circle moment with that. 56.7% of the attackers to LGBTQIA peoples are unknown to the people, and also more times than not, cisgendered males. If you or anyone that you know has experienced any crimes in terms of physical crimes or verbal or what have you, and you live in the LGBTQIA, or you are part of the LGBTQIA, or they are a part of that community, reach out to AVP. It's the Anti-Violence Project, avp.org, great organization which provides info and support. I also know that these acts of violence are not limited to LGBTQIA. It is also reported that domestic acts of violence in the U.S. against women, both cis and non-cisgendered, are actually on the rise. If you or anybody you know are in a situation where you feel like there's nowhere for you to go, please contact. On Instagram, you can reach out to them via Instagram at domestic violence, all one word. Also at domestic violence awareness _ and that is at domestic.violence.awareness _ And you can also reach out to Domestic Victors on Instagram. And these people, shout out to all of them. They were responsive to my post, as well as the rapper Saya. Shout out to her for just engaging in the post. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you as a woman, as an LGBTQIA woman, as a non-gender conforming woman, as a dope lyricist, as all of the things that paints the picture of who you are. I appreciate you sharing your story with us, because I know that that's probably not easy. And, you're going to help a myriad of people in the process. So shout out to her. Oh, so you guys, all right, I'm going to talk to you about this crazy date that I had. It wasn't crazy, It was just more of like, why am I doing this? Okay, so I told y'all, right? I was going out on a date last week, Friday night. I even shaved above the knee. Don't get personal, okay? You're getting too personal to me, okay? But I did shave, above the knees for this date. And I walked in the place and I saw a man with a Dudley Do Right here?